guys, welcome to the Bass Cave. This is for some of you guys struggling with the FG knot. Now I won't be able to talk because the way I do it, you like hold it in your mouth, the braid. But I'm kind of just gonna go through it and probably add a voiceover to kind of explain what I'm doing while I'm doing it. But there's a few tricks to make sure that you do properly to properly tie the FG knot, and I might go ahead and throw in the shark knot too. Those are two knots I use when I use a braid to copolymer, monofilament, or a fluorocarbon leader. I'm gonna give it a shot. Wish me luck. Also recommend, the way Gene Jensen does it, Fluke Master. Practice, and even though you're in your house, you could figure out a thing to weigh it on the opposite end of the table. But I recommend it. Get used to doing it with the rod as the weight pulling away from you, kind of like a bow. Hold it a little taut, because that way when you're out on the water, you can use that and works best. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this, and if you watch this, the way it pulls, you're not actually wrapping this line around this. You're wrapping this, but then when you pull it, this line's actually what's cross braiding or whatever wrapping around this. So I'll get to that point, and then I won't be able to talk. I'll have this in my mouth, but then we'll talk about what the most important thing is after you do this crossing. It's always important, if you watch, I'm going to start away from myself. You want to start, number one, going towards the rod. And I think that's important. When I first started this knot, I was going the opposite way, and I think that was causing me some problems. But what I've found out, that anything under, say, 12 or 14, I use 15-pound test, works fine with 20. But I started doing 28 on all mine because my 10 started slipping through, and that's what this is. It's pound. So I'm gonna do. I found 28 and it won't slip. So anything 10 pounds or under, I would suggest 28 to 30 wraps. We're on 20 right now. And if at any point you goof up, just let it unwind. This knot unwinds fairly easy, and then start back over. Now you're not cinching anything tight yet. What you want to get tied is this tag end of this, and then your main line. And I'd recommend, if you start to the left, you see how I started. I going from the left side, coming to the right, and I'm gonna tie it that way once. Now this is going to be hard because you actually do need. Let me tighten my line back up. Need a little tension for this. Let me tighten this back up. So don't snug it yet. So if you remember, you went to the left, now go the opposite way. You're gonna do one more, and I don't know how big a deal that makes, but I found if I do it this way, for sure it seems to work better. Okay, now when you're to that point, this is where you're gonna cinch it, and this is where I'm gonna need to move some of this stuff around. anytime I cinch a knot, I figure I need to put as much pressure on it as any big, the biggest fish, whatever it's going to encounter. So with braid, it's harder to do. But I usually wrap it around my hand and actually pretty much pull that almost as hard as I can with that, about the time that starts feeling like it's cutting in and starting to hurt your hands. Don't go crazy and make yourself bleed or break it if it's 8 pound, 6 pound test, but you want that pretty tight. So then you're to that point. You've done cinched it up and you're right there. Now, a lot of them are recommending, cut that as close as you can, which I don't know. I've just never been a fan of cutting a tag in so close that it could, one little slip and it pulls through. So I hope you guys can see this. I cut it real close, but not all the way. Now, what I thought about doing, I leave just a touch. Now, it'll make it harder to go through the other way, but I'll show you how I kind of counter that. Because that knot should hold. In all actuality, for that to hold, I could probably cut it right there and be good. But to get it to, when you reel back in, go through the guides better, here's where, where this part really comes into play. Now, I actually cut that pretty short, the first knot, but what I try to do is I start back again, and if I went to the left, or I started to the left and I went to the right, and this part doesn't make a huge deal, but you're basically going to do 2 more knots again, and you're going to want to alternate on which way they were facing. So we'll start, I think the last one I went like this, so will go in the same opposite way as I did the last one. But this is where, if you did leave a little bit of a tag in, and you're like, don't want to go back and get it, you can make this knot. I don't know if you guys can make that out or not, but if you take your time, you can make that knot cinch over if there was a tag in there. And then since I went this way, then I'm going to go back one more time this way. And I know you guys are thinking, well, this knot sucks. I've lost 5 fish because I haven't been casting out. But this knot's definitely worth trying. Once you get the hang of it, and I can do it way faster than this, even though it still takes a while, but doing this, trying to make a video of doing this is, is actually quite the challenge. So then I'm going to go one more time. And I'm to there, but this is actually done. Like most of them you'll see, and you can double check it after cut your tag in. Now what I do, because I feel I want it to come in as well as when I cast and go out, because sometimes if you run on a fairly long leader, it will allow you to, even run a little longer than what you normally would. So, and I did cut myself a little short there, but what I like to do on my final knot, I tie one more. So we've already tied this basically 4 times, just to recap here. We've tied it 4 times, twice, cinched it, then we, cut our tag in, then we tied it 2 more times, going the opposite way with each knot. Now for the final knot, what I like to do, and one of the other guys on the videos, I didn't invent this or nothing, he does it, but a lot of guys don't, I don't think. And I wrap this about, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And it's kind of a hard knot to get cinched down because sometimes it'll clump up and it almost makes the knot bigger, but I don't know if you can make that out. I think that extra little bit right there, first of all, it helps to, those knots are going to have to come untied before you get into the 4 you just tied in case it does give, because a lot of guys are claiming these are failing. But then now you can cut this. You guys can see that. And I never, go all the way in. Let's double check it. And it's very tight, stout knot. And I mean that little fuzz there won't do anything, but you can make out how like crazy thin. That, I mean, it's not much hard to put. This is one of the clips I like the best. It's a little hard to get it on, but these seem to hold up to whatever they're rated as. And I mean, this is a little, you know, if you know the split rings, most, not all your baits, they like, you know, the freedom actually helps them. And I don't think that part right there is going to actually hinder any fish seeing. I mean, look at all the hooks, and I don't think that's going to keep a fish from hitting that. I mean, super clear water, yeah, you might want to do away with all that, so you may want to paint, you know, this stuff a color and that kind of deal. But the water I fish, I don't think it's a problem, and I don't feel, you know, I used to use the speed clips, and I did have issues with them. Like, I'd literally just throw the bait off. But basically a snap swivel, and a lot of times I'll just buy the whole swivel thing and I just cut that part off if I can't find them. But we're talking about right now the shark knot. What you're going to do, you know, you see I went through one way, turn it, went back, right back through. Same way I came out on this side, I went right back in to get it like this. Now from here, this is where this line, this knot does lose, you know, you waste some line, but it's the best line that I recommend for pretty much anything. You don't have to use it near as much as, say, for mono or copolymer. You definitely want it for fluoro. But what you're going to do is twist this thing 8 times, run this tag back through down here. Now, one of the things that it took me a while to figure out is if I'm pulling down, if I'm putting so much pressure on this, I end up making this notch that this is going to go through like crazy hard to get this up here into it. So what I found is just give yourself plenty, and I usually was trying to do that because I was trying to save line. Just don't worry about the line. You tie this, and then once you get the hang of it, you'll use a little less line, but it just takes up some line. You'll see when I cut the tag off. But get it to about there, and I wouldn't say, you know, lightly, but don't put everything you got into it. If you got loop I'm keeping, that's what I want to keep. I want to be able to make this an easy knot to go back through. I'm hooking myself. This is a brand new lure, so keeps wanting to catch my finger. I already lost count, but that's close enough. And I do, if I'm using bigger line, a lot of times I'll just use 6. The smaller line, I like to use 8 at least. That's what I think. I watched Mark Zona tie this, is the first guy that showed it. And he didn't invent it either. He says in his video on tying it, it's just a good knot. And he was showing somebody on some channel, I can't remember, a while back, a few years back, I watched it. So you get to that point, and you can see that, you know, you just take the tag that was doubled up through there. Now this is where you're going to want to get it wet. The other knot is I do it dry, but this one, and then you're just going to pull that up. And that is the strongest knot that I have ever seen to tie your bait on with. That thing is, I've never, ever had it fail. Now I cut this tag already off. There's 2 of them, and like all my tags, if you watch, I never go as tight. I just had too many knots fail when back in the day. I thought, oh, I need to get that off so none of the gunk sticks on it and that kind of stuff. And I just had way too many, you know, stupid losses on no matter what knot you tie. I think all of them need just a hair, just a little room. You know, it's not much. They just need a little room for give. If you just give that extra big fish, you know, and you pull just that hard. I don't think this knot would do it, but I still yet, if you can make that out, I leave just, I don't know if you know if that's a 2 millimeters maybe a millimeter. I don't know what that is. But I always leave just a hair on any knot I tie to just give it a little extra leeway. But alright guys, hope you liked this little knot tying video. I'm going to try to put it all one together, just one little, you know, the shark knot and FG knot, do it kind of thing. But also I would appreciate it if you like this little video, share it with your friends, share the channel with your friends. Trying to grow this channel, And any help I could get from you guys would definitely be appreciated. And like always, thanks for watching. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming.